Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the first episode of Serene Ball Talk. This will be a YouTube channel where we talk sports, mostly basketball, and create positive, safe environments for everybody to be able to express their love for their team and talk ball for real. I think the best way to start this off, and as the first video for the channel, the NBA playoffs are coming up, so I'm going to do a prediction video where I'm filling out my pick'em bracket and we can discuss what we all think. I can give reasonings for why and who I have winning each and every game and series, and my ultimate NBA champion that I'm choosing. All right, so starting with the first series out west, we have OKC versus Memphis. So I think this one's a pretty easy one. I've got OKC beating Memphis in 5 games. Now, I say 5 just to be generous, really, but if we're being honest, it should probably be a sweep. OKC has been rolling all season long, NBA best net rating, most games won by 15 plus points, and the Grizzlies have slid back in the standings. At one point, they were the 4th seed and have slid back since firing their head coach. And also lost a very close game with the Warriors in the play-in. I just don't see Memphis having a good shot at this. SGA, again, you know how consistent he is. 30 points on the season and just an ultimate force by himself. Can take over a game, win a game. Then you have the defense from Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort. And with only really one on-ball creator with Ja Morant, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough, especially what we saw with Zach Edey. Being 7'4", but not being super physical, I believe Chet Holmgren is going to have a very good matchup against him. Chet Holmgren does way less, but Zach Edey just does not use his body and really lean on people in the post to really exploit that size mismatch, along with being a somewhat weaker rebounder. And as a whole, Memphis doesn't rebound very well at all. Jaren Jackson, even for being 6'9", 6'10"-ish and a DPOY, he only averages about 6 rebounds a game, if that. They're going to have a very, very, very tough time dealing with this OKC Thunder team. All right, so with the Thunder pick being said, the next matchup out west is going to be the Nuggets versus the Clippers. Now, Nikola Jokic, in my opinion, is the best player in the world, easily averaging a triple-double, 30, 12, and 10, all those amazing things. But right now, it's pretty much a one-man show out there. They just fired their coach and GM, just like the Grizzlies. And the Clippers on the flip side have been very consistent these last, I'd say, 30 games. I believe they've been the highest rated offense and defense. James Harden playing at an all-NBA level. Kawhi Leonard, 2-time champion, finals MVP 2-time. You know what he's capable of in the playoffs. Multiple historic playoff runs, numbers-wise, percentages, and points. You know what I'm saying? The biggest X factor in this series will be James Harden. If James Harden can play like he has been all season, along with, and especially abusing the pick and roll with Ivica Zubac, a lot of people can talk about Jokic. Jokic is not a very good defender. We all know that, but the Nuggets are at a shortage of good defenders in general. Jokic is bad as an anchor, and they don't have a lot of point-of-attack defenders either. That pick and roll should be money between Harden and Zubac. They might eat all game long, all series long off of that. And because of that alone, I have the Clippers in 6. Now, granted, Nikola Jokic himself is capable of winning you 2 or even 3 games and pushing it to a 7-game series by himself, but I just don't see it happening with this bad of a supporting cast that he's had. Especially Aaron Gordon has been inconsistent, MPJ inconsistent. Jamal Murray has somewhat regressed. He's now looking a lot like himself, as we typically see in most playoff series in most years. So I'd have to give that one to the Clippers early, just given how well they've been playing this latter half of the season. So after Nuggets and Clippers, we have the Lakers and the Timberwolves. And here, I'm projecting the upset. I want the Timberwolves in 7. The Lakers are, of course, you have LeBron James, Luka Doncic. You're saying LeBron James, easily the greatest player ever. You know what I'm saying? Depending on who you ask, I believe it's a tie 1A, 1B. He's one of the greatest that we've ever seen touch a basketball. Luka Doncic, by the numbers, 33, 9, and 9 is one of the greatest playoff performers we've ever seen. And Austin Reeves has come into his own late in this season. But they are extremely top heavy. Outside of those 3 players, you don't have much else coming for you on the offensive end of the floor. DFS and Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt are great defenders, but they rely heavily on other players to get them open. along with the Lakers roster overall being undersized. Their only 7-footer is 7'1" Jackson Hayes, who he himself is not very good defensively, similar to Jokic. And they just they're too small for the Timberwolves, in my opinion. They could run a lineup. The Timberwolves could come out there with Jaden Daniels, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert at the same time with Anthony Edwards. And the Lakers, I feel, would not be able to match that at all. We have a guy off the bench, is 6 Man of the Year, Naz Reid, who has a great handle for somebody that's 6'9". Jaden McDaniels is a great rebounder for somebody that's 6'9", 6'10"-ish in that range. That's, of course, an amazing defender, gets a lot of the toughest assignments on this roster. You combine that with the smothering rim protection of Rudy Gobert. They have a very, very hard task in front of them. And I just don't think that they can match up well enough to take advantage of Rudy Gobert's lack of speed. If they try to go small ball, which they have usually done with Rui and DFS at the 4 and the 5, I mean, they can easily the Timberwolves can easily slide Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels, and Naz Reid at those 3, 4, and 5 slots. And then the rebounding is in the Timberwolves' favor, and they still have the defense to guard on the other end with guard LeBron and Luka. So I just don't see a way where the Lakers win this unless LeBron and Luka literally combine for 60, 70 points a game. Like, there's just no, and that's a lot to ask of somebody that's 40 years old. And Luka, as we know, sometimes he has a tendency to get winded, and we know he's not a good defender on the opposite end of the floor to stop this team either. You can say that somebody's going to have to stand in front of Anthony Edwards. You're saying Rui Hachimura and Jerry Vanderbilt. Jerry Vanderbilt is more likely going to be playing down low. So Rui Hachimura and DFS are going to be kind of on ball a lot. I don't think they have enough just one-on-one to stop Anthony Edwards. Hell, who can, right? So once you start sending the help in and you start kicking, and Anthony Edwards starts passing the ball to shooters and things of that nature, the Timberwolves are the 3rd best three-point shooting team in the NBA. They're going to punish you for sending help, for late rotations, things of that nature. There's just no, I find it hard for the Timberwolves to lose this series. I have the Timberwolves in 7 games. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think it's going to be a very, very hard-fought series, but I do have the Timberwolves winning and going up ultimately. Then after that series, we have the Rockets and the Warriors for the last series out west. I'm going with another upset. I like the young guys. Give me the Rockets. I have the Rockets in 6. Now, the reason I chose the Rockets is because I feel that they've really found something in their last regular season game where they held Steph to 1 of 11 shooting and just overall 3 points in that game, where their physicality was just way too much for the Warriors to match. They out-rebounded the Warriors. Steven Adams is a literal human vortex on the rim and just in that low post and rebounding area in general. They go out there with the intention of Steven Adams getting the offensive board. That's how they generate their points on a lot of possessions during the Steven Adams minutes. He usually gets about 25, 27-ish minutes a game. That's usually how they generate their offense. They're going to shoot it at the rim, and he's going to get it when it comes off the glass. And the Warriors, again, just like the Lakers, are undersized. They have Kevon. I don't trust Kevon Looney against Steven Adams. And Quentin Post as their backup big also himself is not very proven to say that he's going to be able to match up with Steven Adams being a second-round rookie. I just don't see how, again, the Warriors can really win on that rebounding differential and just overall getting those ending possessions, ending the Rockets' offensive possessions. I mean, that is a very, very vital part to defense, just ending the possession, grabbing the board. And the Rockets are leading the NBA in 15 offensive boards a game. That's very, very detrimental to a team that really doesn't run a 7-footer on the floor with the Warriors. And also in the last outing, the Rockets were extremely physical. I would argue that this game is going to come down a lot to the officiating and what the Rockets can get away with defensively. Because Steph was out there. They were physical with Steph. Steph did not have his way running around off ball and doing those things around the back screens. He just was not very, he wasn't allowed to run free. which is very important when you want to contain this Warriors team. You have to be able to sometimes double Steph away from the ball, sometimes trap him, sometimes get him in positions where he has to make a few passes because he is a smaller player. He's going to have to pass over a lot of these tall wings. And Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, again, a smaller guard his size like Fred VanVleet, who's very physical. Like he's gonna have to be able to get the ball to Jimmy Butler a lot. I believe that Jimmy Butler is going to be the biggest difference for the Warriors. Can he do what he did against Memphis and draw fouls to get these wings to be less aggressive? If the officiating goes in the way of the Rockets, where they're allowed to play extremely physical and really lean on the Warriors, those young guys, they can run, they can jump. They are going to out-physical the Warriors, in my opinion. They are going to make those gritty plays, the loose balls, getting on the ground, running out of bounds for the rebounds and stuff like that. It really depends on a lot of the officiating, because if Jimmy Butler can get these guys in foul trouble, then there's definitely an argument to be made for the Warriors. But given what the Rockets have been able to get away with all season, being physical, being able to pretty much really manhandling a lot of these smaller guards and stuff like that when they play, I cannot give this series to the Warriors. Even with Steph on the other side, Steph, of course, is capable of, just like any other great players in this game, he can get you 2 or 3 games in the series just alone. But I doubt that he's going to be enough to overcome this tenacious Rockets defense with just a little bit of officiating help, Not necessarily I'm not accusing anybody of rigging no games, but of course, some games are called more physically than others. But if the Warriors get a favorable whistle, then this series might change. But that hasn't happened against the Rockets pretty much all year. They've been allowed to play a very physical brand of defense and just really be able to get into teams' back pocket and really just stick with ball handlers and stuff like that. So I do have to give this to the to the Rockets. Jesus. I have Rockets in 6. So now we're moving out east. So for the first Eastern Conference first round matchup, we have the Cavaliers versus the Miami Heat. This, I have the Cavs in 4. Cleveland is just too good, man. The Cavalanche is going to come through swinging, right? We're talking about one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league. I think they were the best. I think their team shot at 40%, had a team percentage of 40% from beyond the arc on this season. And you're comparing that to a Miami Heat team that's around 21st in offensive rating. Miami just does not have the scoring to stick with Cleveland. It may be close early. They may be able to keep it a close game. But when we get into those later quarters, that late third, fourth quarter, they're going to open up the Cavs are going to open the door on them. They just don't have the scoring to compete with them. The Heat are very, very prone to going along scoring droughts, like just periods of time where they can't score at all. And the Cavs will never have that problem. With Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland in your backcourt, that is just not a thing that should ever come where they're having long stretches. I'm talking about 3-4 minutes in a quarter with just no points. That's not a thing. Unless you're talking about, again, even with the defense of Miami, they're not capable of doing that to match their low scoring output. So I have the Cavs in the sweep. I have the Cavs in 4. Next series would be Pacers-Bucks. The series I think might be the best series of the first round. I believe, you have the power of friendship over there in Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, along with a plethora of amazing role players. You have Miles Turner, again, a big that can stretch the floor and protects the paint, as he has been in many trade rumors across the years, and now he's sticking to Indiana. They have a real chance to shake up things in the East. A lot of teams are calling them a very washed, I believe the Pacers are a very dark horse team. They could go far and get back to the conference finals. I believe that the Pacers are actually extremely good. Guys like Andrew Nembhard, who showed up big last year. I believe that they're going to have a lot of another big year postseason from him. I believe that Tyrese Halliburton, even if he has a bad shooting night, which he is prone to do, he can still control the offense in a way that is really, really amazing. He's one of the best passers in the league, one of the most dynamic dribblers. He can still get other people open even if he's not scoring himself. And Pascal Siakam, of course, 25-7, I believe, on the year. Just an all-around monster down there in the low post. The patented spin move. He's going to be able to get open, get a lot of what he wants. Because I believe that Brook Lopez is going to get played off the floor, as he has been in a lot of playoff series since they won their ring. I believe you're going to see a lot of Giannis and Bobby Portis on the floor. And if you leave just Giannis on Pascal Siakam, then it becomes a series of kickouts. I believe Pascal Siakam is going to be able to find a lot of shooters on the perimeter because the Bucks don't really have a lot of point of attack guys. Like Pat Connaughton is okay defensively. He's not a liability by any means, but he's not the same guy that like on a Chris Middleton or Jrue Holiday level like when we saw when they won their championship 3 or 4 years ago now. And I believe that a guy like Kyle Kuzma, Taurean Prince, they're not going to have the scoring outside of Giannis to really keep up with this Pacers team, at least in game 1. Now, if Dame comes back in game 2, we definitely have a different story here. But even with that being said, even with everything that I've said about the Pacers and as good as they are, I cannot rule out the possibility of Giannis Antetokounmpo having a world-beating performance against these guys offensively. We're talking about somebody who's been averaging, I want to say, a triple-double of his own in the last, pretty much since Dame went down with deep vein thrombosis in his leg. He's pretty much been averaging his own triple-double. So with that being said, this is a tough one. I'm going to go Bucks in 6. I'm going to go Bucks in 6. The guys on, I won't say they're inexperienced. They just went to the conference finals last year, but they're still very young. And when you look at a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo with his dominance and just his level of, saying that je ne sais quoi that he has to be able to get to the line, and of course his defensive instincts that are just bar none. Again, the reason why he is a 2-time DPOY. I believe he can get it done. I really do. I do think that if Dame comes back, which they're projecting, I believe game 2 as of the most recent reports, I believe that they can really get this done. But that depends on how well Dame plays. Deep vein thrombosis, and again having those being on blood thinners, he's going to be somewhat limited. I know because he probably hasn't been working out. Again, that's like a very serious injury that is taken very serious amongst the NBA and even not even the NBA, just when normal people get it. It's a very, very serious thing. But I believe that the Bucks can get this done, even being short-handed as they are. So the next series in the Eastern Conference, we have the Knicks versus the Pistons. You know what I'm saying? Real scrappy series right here, from what I feel. This is something, who's going to get the most loose balls, who's getting those blocks, who's out there really getting physical. Because we know Karl-Anthony Towns, as history would tell us, he's struggled a lot physically. It's going to be on Jalen Duren. It's going to be on guys like those lower guys like Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren to really get down there and show and oppose their will on him. You know what I mean? Like to really get out there and lean on him. They can't get moved in the post. A guy like Isaiah Stewart also getting down there, getting low, really showing why their defense is ranked so high. Cat is going to be the guy they're going to have to stop. I believe that they're not going to have as much of a problem containing Jalen Brunson. They're not going to stop him. I believe Jalen Brunson's not going to have those crazy playoff performances similar to what he did last year versus the 76ers. I believe that he's going to be very curtailed in what he can do because Cade, of course, is 6'7". We're looking at Sawyer Thompson, the other Thompson brother, at 6'7", 6'8"-ish. We're looking at Tobias Harris is 6'9". Then Tim Hardaway Jr. is 6'5". Jalen Brunson more likely going to be the shortest player on the floor. So once you start sending those doubles and those traps, it gets harder for small guards to usually get out of those types of things, and it's going to be very, very, very hard for Jalen Brunson to get to a lot of his spots. You know, he's played towards the rim, and he's very paint-heavy as a player. I won't say paint-heavy. He does because he shoots very, very well. But, you know, he likes to get a lot of tough shots around the rim, a lot of those layups and closer shots. So I do think that this is going to be a series that goes to 7. And honestly, I think I'm going to pick the Pistons. I believe that the Pistons defensively have what it takes to keep these guys in check. I'm going to go Pistons in 7. And then the last first-round series, right? I have, last first-round series in the Eastern Conference is the Celtics versus the Magic, the 2-7 matchup. I have the Celtics in 4. Similar to the Miami Heat, Okay, back to it. So similar to the Miami Heat, the Magic have a tendency, even in their play-in game, it showed, versus the Hawks, that they have a tendency, just like the Heat, to go on these long scoring droughts, these long periods of time without any type of offense being generated. It's been more of a problem since pretty much Paolo got there that they don't have enough perimeter creation. They really need another backcourt guy to complement him and Franz to complement again Banchero and Wagner. I said that Paolo and Franz to really complement their game, get them the ball in the half court set. You know what I'm saying? Because he's 6'10", him bringing the ball up and then working the isolation, it stagnates the offense a lot. Not to say that he is a problem why their offense is bad, but more so him and Franz are carrying a load that could be alleviated if they just the Magic really went out and got another ball handler in that backcourt to really sit behind them and just honestly get it going. Because if you can just have an initiator, a guy to get them in the offense and get them involved, it would be they'd have a much easier time scoring. But until then, I have the Celtics in a sweep. The Celtics, of course, they have almost 8 or 9 guys on the roster that shoot 38% or better. Last year, they had 8 players that hit 100 threes. That level of scoring, along with their defense and their 2 long star wings in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Then you have the backcourt defense in Jrue Holiday, Derek White, and then off the bench, you have Al Horford for, again, rim protection, and Porzingis is also a great rim protector. The amount of they can play Orlando's same brand of defense with twice, maybe even 3 times as much scoring capability. So you can't. I have zero hope for the Magic winning that series. If I'm being completely honest, I don't. I'm calling a sweep. All right. So now that we've picked all the first round matchups, moving on to the second round, we're going to go back out west. So based on the bracket I picked, I now have the Thunder matched up against the Clippers. And would I be crazy to say that I still like the Clippers in this matchup? The experience of the guys on this team in Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Ivica Zubac, they have years of playoff experience over this Thunder team and this roster. The Thunder are a great team. Again, all-time regular season team, but they are still extremely, extremely young. I believe that an experience factor does play when it comes into this second round matchup. I believe that the Clippers defense will be able to actually match up with the Thunder. And I believe that I'm going to take Clippers in 7. I believe that Kawhi Leonard is going to be able to do a good job on guarding SGA. And I believe that SGA in return, or really Jalen Williams, SGA and Jalen Williams are not going to be able to slow down James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. I believe that there's mostly going to be a lot of pick and roll action again, but the Thunder do have a good pick and roll defense. I believe that in isolation, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, I don't think that the Thunder guys are physical enough to stop them from getting to the spots that they want. Kawhi Leonard, mid-range maestro. James Harden, great around the perimeter, the patented step back. I believe a lot of those things are going to start coming into play when it really gets down to those late game possessions and a lot of those times in the games where a lot of players would get nervous, things that would happen like that. As we saw last year versus the Mavericks, the Thunder are very, very just somewhat, they lack a lot of late game prowess per se. And I believe that the game gets more physical. James Harden is very capable when he's not fishing for fouls and not really looking for the call per se, like he patented a lot of stuff with sometimes his flopping and other things like that. He has a very efficient game. He can get to the rim. He's going to get open. He's going to do what he likes to do. I cannot say the same that if SGA is not at the line. I know that's a very terrible cliche take, but I believe, but it does. If he's not getting to the line and getting the Clippers into foul trouble, the Thunder as a whole are going to have a bad problem or have a hard time really driving, getting to the rim, because they drive. I think as a team, they have one of the highest drive percentages in the NBA. So if they're not getting guys like Zubac and stuff like that into foul trouble and the officiating doesn't really go their way, in the playoffs, know that these games are typically more physical. They're not calling as many as the ticky-tack, the little, the chip, the close calls, they're going to let them go. I just feel that the Clippers may have the edge there from an experience standpoint. So moving on to the next second round series that I have here, I would have the Timberwolves versus the Rockets. So again, picking the underdog in pretty much both of those matchups from the first round, I believe that the Timberwolves actually I have the Timberwolves actually in 6 here. Just because They, again, like I said before, have a very good big rotation between Jane Daniels, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert. I believe that their offense with Ant and being able to actually create on that perimeter is going to show immensely if this matchup comes to fruition. They would be able to get the Rockets going in 6 games just because the Rockets have such a hard time scoring in a half-court set. And I don't see ways where the Timberwolves necessarily turn the ball over a lot to give the Rockets those strong transition opportunities. Because a guy like Mike Conley, he's very safe with the ball. Ant doesn't bring the ball up all the time, or not to a rate that you see a guy like Draymond or stuff like that. Like, he'll get the ball at the Mike Conley will bring it up, initiate the offense, give the ball to Ant at the wing, and then he goes to work. So it's very hard to get turnovers in an offense like that unless you're sending a lot of help at the rim. And even if you send help at the rim, the Timberwolves, like I said before, third best shooting team in the NBA. That level of offense, if you're helping off of anybody on the perimeter, they're going to make you pay for that. And that's just one of the big things. Like, shooting is a premium in this league. So I just really don't see a way where the Rockets have a chance versus a Timberwolves team in the second round. So then after that, we move on to the Eastern Conference side of things with the second round matchups. And from what I picked, I would have the Cavaliers versus the Bucks. I would have the Cavs in 5. Now, I know what I said. Giannis, again, world beater. One of those guys that you really have a hard time betting against, especially when it comes down to just needing a win, really willing a team to it. These last, I'd say, about 15, 20 games ever since Dame got hurt, or it may be a little bit more than that, maybe like 25-ish. But he just can't, he's not going to be able to do that level of work against a Cavaliers team as deep as this team is. With Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen guarding the rim, he's going to have a much harder time getting to that low post area, that restricted area where he can go to work. Then you have guys like DeAndre Hunter on the perimeter that will he's pretty much going to get the Dame matchup. And once it comes down to who on the Bucks is going to guard Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell, I really can't think of any quality name. It's maybe Taurean Prince and Kyle Kuzma, but I just can't see a world where that is enough to slow down the Cavaliers. At any rate, the Cavs just have an ability to turn it on and just really lay on the points and lay them on thick. So I just don't see a way where the Bucks have a chance in that matchup. I have Cavs in 5. Then the last second round matchup will be the Celtics versus the Pistons, and I would also take the Celtics here in 5. The reason I have the Celtics here in 5 is just more so because the Pistons, they're just a very young team. Again, experience. And like I said, the Pistons get gritty. They're a defensive team, but the Celtics, of course, we know they play defense. You know that they have a lot of two-way 3-and-D guys, and the scoring output from Boston is greater than the scoring output of that from Detroit. Similar situation to what I say from them in the first round. They just have the ability to go on these long, extended runs that seem like they'll never stop with just the amount of three-point shooting. They'll shoot in transition. They get their guys open in the half court. I just don't see a way that the Pistons with just Cade pretty much out there running a lot of that show just by himself on that scoring end really matching up well with the Celtics. I do believe that the Pistons are going to be able to defend well. That's never the problem. It's just always, are they going to be able to match the scoring output that the Celtics can produce? And I would just say that they cannot. I just don't see it personally. So now with all the second round matchups out the way, that now takes us to the conference finals matchups on both conferences. From the bracket I have the Clippers and Timberwolves facing off in the Western Conference Finals. In this matchup, I am going to have to take I'm going to take the Clippers. And I would take the Clippers in 6 games. And the reason I'm taking the Clippers in 6 games is because although the Timberwolves are an amazing shooting team, we're talking about, I want to say like 38-ish% from 3. Like I said earlier, they're the third best shooting team in the NBA. But I just don't believe they have the creation against a Clippers team like this to really get those same guys open. A lot of the time when I'm predicting the Timberwolves win these earlier series, they're getting by their man first, right? I believe that Anthony Edwards is going to be able to get by a lot of guys on the Lakers. He's going to be able to get past a lot of guys on the Rockets, per se. I don't think he's going to be able to get past Kawhi Leonard or a Norman Powell on that matchup, or any of those like long wings that the Clippers have, per se. And I just really think that the Timberwolves are going to have a hard time, because if you're not getting by people, they don't get open, per se. Like, no one helps off. He can't collapse the defense if he's not getting into the paint at a consistent rate. And that's why I think he'll struggle with a lot against this Clippers matchup, because most of the time I'm just really, again, leaning on the defense of Kawhi Leonard more so. And the rim protection of Ivica Zubac to really stifle a lot of what Anthony Edwards likes to do. He likes to get to the paint, even though he is one of the best shooters in the NBA. Or the best shooter, actually. I want to say he had the most three-pointers made this season with 320. So, but again, you have to be able to get to your spots and really get open in a lot of those things. It's going to take a lot of, if the Timberwolves want a chance at winning this series, it's going to take a lot of extra help. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I believe that this will be 6 close games, but I just believe in the late game ability of Kawhi Leonard and James Harden together, especially with the Harden-Zubac pick and roll. They'll be able to get Rudy out there pretty much guarding a lot of the things. Because, and opposite to the Lakers matchup, the Lakers don't really have a lot of 7-footers. The Clippers have multiple bigs that they can really put out there and really just, again, get Rudy out there and get Rudy into the pick and roll bias. And if they try to give more, if the Timberwolves try to put out a more agile lineup to really stop threat or stop Rudy from getting put in pick and roll action, they give up a lot of rebounding when it comes to who's going to box out and who's going to rebound against Zubac. So I do believe that the Clippers have a very favorable matchup in this conference final series if it does come to Clippers Timberwolves. Then in the other conference, the conference finals matchup will be Celtics Cavs. I have the Celtics in 7 games because I have the Celtics in 7 games more so because of who's stopping Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and then the shooters. Like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, they're not negative defenders, but they're definitely not defenders to the level of Drew Holiday, Derek White, and things of that nature. So when it comes down to who's stopping who's getting these assignments, I believe that Drew Holiday and Derek White have the defensive backcourt edge over Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I believe that Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are going to have a very hard time getting by those two, just saying, really scrappy Boston guards. So that means you're going to rely on Evan Mobley a lot. Or you need to chip in a lot of points. You may need a big game from Jarrett Allen, a lot of guys, a lot of offensive rebounds, a lot of putbacks, and things of that nature. If you can manage to force those misses, or more so rather corralling those misses from the Cleveland guards, that's because I just don't see a way where Cleveland isn't struggling for points. Same way with Boston. I believe Boston shooting their sustained shooting rather, will be able to overcome that of the Cavs. Because in the last stretch of the season, the Cavs lost about 4 straight games, and they shot terribly from 3 after being the best 3-point shooting team in the season. And that's not really a good precedent you want to set going into the playoffs. And it does, and I'm not going to say it's unheard of for a good team to lose the last 2 games of the season. The Nuggets did that as well in 2023 and then went on to win a championship. So I'm not going to say it's necessarily, I'm not going to say that's like nail in the coffin or anything like that. But again, you have 4 bad shooting games in a row in the playoffs. You're going home. So it's really, they're saying they've shown that to be a possibility for them. You know what I mean? And of course, I don't think that would be the case I'm not going to say that they're going to shoot bad in this series, but I do believe that the Celtics' history of sustained shooting, like they have 8 people over there that shoot well between Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard off the bench, Sam Hauser. You know what I'm saying? I believe that the Celtics' bench shooting and bench depth will help them a lot in terms of matching up well with this Cavaliers team. Because if you give me a good 6-man from the Cavaliers, you probably say Ty Jerome, and he has actually been amazing in those. He's been very good this season in the minutes that he's had. But I just don't think that would be enough right now to be able to overtake this Celtics team. I just believe that they're very set. They're on a mission. right? I believe they're going to get back to the finals. So I do have Celtics in 7. I believe this will be 7 close games. Like, I don't think by any means this could really go either way, but I'm going to lean the Celtics. I just believe that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to have more of a size mismatch. They're going to be more of a mismatch for the Cavaliers when it comes to stopping them at the point of attack. All right, so now that we have picked the conference finals matchup, that leaves me with the LA Clippers versus the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. Now, this would be a great matchup. If both of these teams were to see each other in the finals, this would probably be an amazing series. And my brain is telling me Boston would win. My heart is telling me the Clippers. I just believe when it comes down to tough shot making, which is what you would see a lot of in this series, I can't not give that edge to James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. It's just hard for me not to. We've seen that the Celtics, specifically Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're prone to going cold. They're prone to not necessarily always being mentally there when it comes to big games. You saw that in the 2023 conference finals. You saw that in the 2022 finals where Draymond was able to get into Jaylen Brown's head a lot. You worry if that pressure is there. They've already won a ring, so I wouldn't necessarily call it pressure, but there's always an added sense of, you know what I mean, just a certain sense of, oh man, this is really it. Because they really were able to win the finals last year by abusing Luka Doncic in isolation and really just easily getting by him, or sometimes they would set the guard screen and then try to get Luka Doncic back on whoever had the ball. They can't get away with that against this Clippers team. James Harden may not be the greatest defender, but he's nowhere near as negative of a defender as he was early in his career. Like, he'll get down in that chair and really sit in front of a ball handler if he needs to, especially if he's getting like picked on in isolation in isolation, or necessarily in the pick and roll. He'll fight over a screen if he needs to. So I just don't see. I'm gonna give a very slight edge to the Clippers, but if I could go back. It's not letting me pick the Clippers here. I don't know why. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So I have the Los Angeles Clippers in 7 games. I believe this goes to 7 games. And how many total points would be scored in game 1? These are 2 really strong defensive teams, but I believe offensively that they're gonna shoot the lights out. They're gonna go and get out there and really show and just get after it. I believe. How many total points in game 1? I'm gonna go 233. I believe it gets to a free throw game. I'm gonna go game 1. I believe that should be a score of 120 to 113. So yeah, that sounds like a good score right there. All right, so there it is. I have picked the Los Angeles Clippers to beat the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals in 7 games. Again, let me know what you think about my reasoning about anything. Let me know what you think about the bracket or the championship pick. You know what I'm saying? You can interact with me on Twitter at Serene Ball Talk. Again, I'm Serene Ball Talk here on YouTube, and on TikTok, I'm serene.ball.talk. TOK, and I'm Serene Ball Talk on Instagram as well. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow on all socials. Thank you.